and welcome to Smart Money. This episode brought to you by PPS, and joining me today is Rob Oellermann. He's portfolio manager of the PPS Stable Fund. Thanks so much, Rob, for joining us today, and I'm going to launch straight into it, right? As a starter, give us some of the background to Laurium Capital, and I guess more importantly, a better sense of its track record.
So Laurium Capital, we're 15 years old as a company, which we're quite proud of in the South African space. We're a boutique asset manager. We started by two founders, Gavin Forwag and Murray Winkler, who were, partners at Deutsche Bank in South Africa. And initially just a hedge fund business, and the business has grown to managing 50 billion rand of assets for a full spectrum of clients, South African clients, and even international sovereign wealth funds. We've got 25 staff. And so, the business has grown from a small, almost hedge fund business into the full spectrum of South African asset management. Yeah, so a strong track record of success in all the funds that we manage, not just in hedge funds, but also in more traditional savings products like the PPS fund.
Absolutely. So along the way, as it's built its muscle back in 2020, it acquired Tantalum Capital, a company that you actually co-founded and directed. So why did that make sense, along this path?
Tantalum was, as you say, it was kind of where I had been for the 15 years or so after my career at Coronation and Allan Gray. And with my colleagues, Melanie Stockett and Mike Lawrenson, we felt joining ourselves with a bigger team like Laurium was, it was just building strengths. We were complementary in the different strengths of our business. Laurium had a very strong South African equity and hedge fund business. We were complementary in that they didn't have a big multi-asset offering. We've also done more on the global direct investing in the equity side. And so it made sense to kind of hitch our characters together to the same train. Consolidation in the industry, I think it's more of that will happen in future as well. And it certainly made us, on a combined basis, I think, a much stronger business.
Yeah, of course, Tantalum Capital boasted a track record of its own, right? And by that point had been appointed and managing the PPS Stable Fund for, about 2 years already. So post the acquisition, Laurium Capital, now the exclusive portfolio manager of the single managed PPS Stable Growth Fund, and you alluded to it right at the top. Has anything changed in the way the fund's being managed under the Laurium banner?
Not really in any substantive way. I'd say we have access to a bigger, deeper pool of investment professionals. So it's nicer for us. Melanie and myself still co-manage the fund as we did before. The objectives of the fund are identical. Our day-to-day process is a strongly disciplined one. So we've maintained all of that. But we do have a richer, deeper pool of colleagues that we can use. So I think that's, I think one of the reasons why one joins businesses together in the asset management space is just broadening your depth of resource.
And what's the PPS fund focused on achieving, and how exactly is it going about achieving that?
So this fund operates in the medium equity space, as kind of defined within the savings industry. What that means is that it's kind of a moderate risk portfolio. It's designed for investors who, perhaps in the sort of mid stage of their savings journey, mid to late stage career, who want growth, want to participate in asset growth and in returns, but don't have the same appetite for risk that a young person starting out. So if you think about the kind of volatility of returns or the ups and downs of the market, a fund like this one, which sits in the moderate risk category, is very focused on providing a smoother path of returns than the kind of higher equity return. So we invest across the full spectrum. We invest in shares, in property, in fixed interest income. We invest in South Africa and globally. And so we have the full set of tools available to us. But by and large, we're trying to manage both return and moderate risk at the same time in this fund.
Would you say, Rob, that that's its market differentiator? I mean, or does it go beyond that? Why should the investor choose it over other funds available to them?
Well, I think the fund, there are other funds trying to achieve the same objective. We feel we're very well placed, given our team, given our track record, given the experience that we've had in managing multi-asset portfolios in South Africa and our global capabilities. All of these things combine strongly to give us, we feel, an edge in the ultimate profile of returns that we offer. So for sure, there are other savings products out there trying to deliver moderate returns to a mid-stage investor. But, we know we have a good track record at managing times of stress and risk. We have better drawdowns than the average when times are tough. And yet we participate well when markets offer us decent returns.
Yeah. So bottom line, for those planning for retirement, how does Laurium Capital's investment strategy help in building a portfolio that then supports long-term financial security?
Our job is to keep our clients invested. The first thing as a sort of more moderate and late stage investor is to feel that level of paranoia about the markets. You read a lot of stories in the news around all the risks, the geopolitical risks and other things. And that's our job as fund managers, is to wear that risk and manage that risk and manage assets within that environment. So, I don't joke about it, but the truth is I kind of live in a bit of a state of perpetual paranoia. And as a fund manager and at Laurium Capital, our job as custodians of those savings is to take that risk and invest wisely for the long term on the investor's behalf. So take those calculated positions. So that I really see my job as taking on that burden of staying invested and managing the risks.
And managing expectations as well, and calming investors that, that do hitch their wagons to you and convince them to withstand shorter term noise and volatility. So that being said, how do assets like gold fit into your strategy for managing market uncertainty?
I overuse the term in my messages to the market about known unknowns. There's so many things in the world we don't control for, but there are a number of risk factors out there that are flagged and well known. Gold, funnily enough, in an environment of geopolitical uncertainty, and we all know the geopolitical uncertainties that we're living with, conflict in the Middle East, conflict in Eastern Europe, massive number of people going to the polls in the elections this year, not just in South Africa. And so these geopolitical risks often manifest themselves in tensions in commodity markets, energy markets, and also precious metals. So precious metals offer a sanctuary, a kind of negative, I call it negative correlation. So these are assets which increase in value when often other tensions flare and other listed assets decrease in value. So I hold gold in a variety of different forms in the fund. Remember, I spoke about mitigating risk and managing risk. Gold for us is an important risk diversifier within the funds, and we balance carefully the exposures that we have with just even a small pocket of exposure to gold. But it provides a very significant bang for buck as a risk mitigation tool for us. Yeah. And it's both physical as well as in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rob, what would you say makes the PPS and the Laurium Capital partnership work? And I guess by extension, how does that position you to leverage off some of the trends or the opportunities that investors should be paying attention to at the moment?
So I think the main thing that funnily enough, I've been involved in managing PPS funds for a lot longer than just the PPS Stable Growth Fund. I was involved in my previous employer way back when in the early 2000s of PPS. So it resonates with me as an organization kind of mutualization and risk management process, which I think PPS initially started off as managing risk for professionals. So it really is our kind of at the core of our partnership. We like the fact that we have a full spectrum of investment tools at our disposal. So the global providing opportunity to growth, the South African assets, which obviously give us value. And so within the fund space, we feel we have full access in our partnership to deliver a proper return for PPS stakeholders.
I love how you say the South African market that, of course, obviously offers us a value. How much value are you seeing in the South African market right now, where the offshore investment pull has gotten pretty strong?
Yeah, so, there's no doubt South Africa for a while has been a kind of what I call a low growth, high risk investment destination, which is not attractive for global investors. But we really have plumbed, I think, not quite the depths, but we've had a rocky road. And what has happened is really cheap assets have presented themselves in the South African space. On the equity side, importantly as well as our South African fixed income markets, so sovereign bonds, we see trading at very attractive yields for us, over 11.5% for a 10-year South African yield, which is really attractive to us. And so that element of valuation, the discount that you get to global assets has become very attractive to us. Of course, it's really important to always seek the longer term opportunities. And so the diversification to global growth assets is still there. Pretty excited still about the opportunities in cloud computing, AI, the pharmaceutical space. We see huge developments in oncology drugs and oncology pipeline for a number of the companies that we invested in. So we always balance this value that we see on the table in South Africa in the short term with some of these longer term growth opportunities globally, and that's finding that balance that's important.
So, Rob, I'm going to give you the opportunity for a quick punt. How can investors get in contact with you about investing in the PPS Stable Growth Fund?
So PPS is on all the investment platforms, the PPS Stable Growth Fund, which is probably the first point of access. There's a website. PPS itself has a website for PPS investments, and then directly through Laurium Capital. So if you contacted Laurium Capital through our website, through an address, someone will get back to you and happily put you in touch with our investment team.
Rob, let's leave it there. Pleasure catching up with you this morning. Thanks so much for having joined us. Of course, Rob Oellermann is PM of the PPS Stable Fund.